Hey everybody, this episode of the Silver Tongue Podcast is sponsored by Tattoo Flash Collective. Tattoo Flash Collective is a great place to find your favorite artists, prints, and flash. There are national and international artists to choose from. Pick single sheets or mix and match artists. Listeners of the Silver Tongue Podcast can receive a 10% discount when they use the promo code SILVERTONGUE at checkout. Head over to tattooflashcollective.com and browse the collection. It's a great way to give back to the tattoo community and have something amazing to show for it.
Similar to that.
Like
and
a
then
compressor.
I think Lucky's or somebody was selling that, but you can go on. I looked at like even Guitar Center or like those places, you could buy like weird battery packs that you could just plug anything in.
Right.
But that's basically like, I was going to do that for a light because I was going to put a light onto this, like mount it, and I'm like, how do I get this so this doesn't have to be plugged in? So I was looking at those to plug it into the battery, but I didn't go that far.
You should have a light that's attached to a solar panel.
Yeah. How do we harness the sun in here more?
But keep all the windows shut.
Yeah. I just gotta work by the window. No, you should look into it, or use it while you're here.
Yeah, I'll try it.
Of course, because it's just gonna be sitting there. So
I'll definitely.
Once you try it, once you go battery, you'll never go back.
Because then I could take that to Europe as well.
It's funny because you'll see people posting like tattooing on top of a fucking mount, whatever, with it, or in a bus or something like that. Because you could basically tattoo wherever you want now with it. Doesn't matter.
My goodness.
Oh yeah.
Are we on? Oh, we've been on.
Is this thing on? This thing is on.
I'd like to introduce you, and then we can get away with all the informalities.
Yeah, whatever. I'm following you, man. This is your dance.
My dance.
This is your dance. I'm just here.
So drum roll. Mr. Chris Barnett, a good friend. Some know him as Boss Man.
Oh man. Damn it. I know. The ultimate.
I won't tell everybody the other name.
Yeah,
that Victor tells. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Victor knows a lot of them.
He knows a lot. It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you back.
Good to be back. Tell me what's new. Anything new at the shop or?
Just remodeling. That's the newest thing I feel like with the shop. We kind of did a little remodel, which I think was needed. A little refresher. Kind of. I don't know what's the word. It's not like a morale boost, but I don't know. Just something, a little refresher for everybody.
Definitely,
I feel like it was kind of needed.
You got some good feng shui going in.
Yeah, we're trying to do that, and our good friend Jeremiah came and helped us out with that. Who originally helped build the shop, so he knew
the layout.
Yeah, the skeleton of the shop, and totally made it work in a short amount of time.
Yeah,
so that's the newest thing.
And that's Jeremiah Louis.
Yeah. Jeremiah Louis. Yeah,
he's up in New Hampshire.
The dude works, man. Such a hard. He did it so fast.
I bet.
Such a crazy work ethic. I wish I had that. So that's new. We got the new tattoo Elena's here now, so that's also new, and I think that was good timing with the shop being remodeled and everything.
Right.
Throwing someone else new into the mix, just kind of little kick in the butt. But other than that, man, same old Boston.
Yeah.
Same old crowd, same old scene. It's fun.
Yeah. No. You still have all the same like students coming in.
Yeah. You still get the new crew every September. I think we got definitely a different bunch, or at least a different sense of what people are getting. It's funny because you're with having so close to the school or being so close to the students and everything. It's funny how you see your like fingers on the pulse of the trends. Oh wait, okay, so this is what's happening this year,
right?
Okay. So that's always interesting. It keeps it kind of fresh, I guess, or interesting or whatever. But
how was Alston Christmas this year?
Dude, yeah. I usually avoid all that stuff, but I heard it went off. So I don't know. I heard there was it was a good time, but I usually stay away from the shop, the Alston Christmas and stuff like that. Driving in here, it's
crazy.
Yeah, take the day off, man. Just take the day off.
People who don't know, Alston Christmas is the 1st of September, and in Boston, it's when all the students move out of their old apartments, and the new students move in the same exact day.
Oh, yes.
Pretty much all of Boston.
Every college, yeah.
Yeah, every college.
I forgot how many. What's the total number? 50, 60? I don't know, man. There's so many community colleges.
It's crazy.
Business schools, art schools, every kind of school is here.
Yeah.
So yeah, all those students. I remember when I first moved to Boston, somebody told me it was 275,000 students move into Boston every September.
Incredible.
And I know it's gone up because I feel like Every school gets busier and busier. So I don't know what the number is at now, but it's got to be closer to 300K.
Yeah. And just imagine 300,000 people trying to park U-Hauls who have never driven U-Hauls before.
Never. So many cars smashed, so many roads blocked, so much furniture, like you said, sitting. I like when it's the student waiting out in the lawn with their furniture because they had to bring the U-Haul truck back. So they're just sitting in a living room on the front yard or wherever waiting for the other person to move out. And so that's always fun to watch. I feel like it'd be a good time to go around with a cooler of beer.
Definitely.
And like sell cans of beer, sit on someone's couch outside, have a beer with
and
them.
just people watch and see everybody struggling.
I learned to avoid it. After living in Alston for a few years, I learned to avoid that.
Yeah, we were living right on the outskirts of like Brighton, Alston, and we would go shopping. Yeah, we would go and just see what people have tossed out. Yeah, they'd be like perfectly good furniture and
computers. TVs. Anything, dude. Because those students didn't care. Parents, mom and dad bought it. Don't need it.
No.
Oh, I broke it or sold it. I think that's what helped a lot of those secondhand stores.
Yeah. Yeah, we would have that guy, the deaf guy. I think he was homeless as well, but he would stop people on the street or stop cabs and like get you a cab, and then you would have to tip him for getting you a cab.
The deaf ninja?
Deaf ninja.
Yeah, that dude. Yeah. Yeah, he's very helpful.
He's very helpful. But behind our apartment, we had this like little cozy little cubby area that was hidden from the street view, and he would store furniture.
Oh man.
And so we would be like waking up at 3 a.m, and he'd be dragging a couch in our like back of the house.
It must have been a good couch. He must have saw potential in it.
But he sells it, I believe.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Down to the
to the stores or something. So smart, man. Land of opportunity, Alston.
Have you seen the Orchard, the skate shop? They did a video on YouTube of them skateboarding through all the
That was really cool. I did. That's the way to approach that holiday.
Obstacles.
Just go shred it. Just go rip it.
It's too funny. That's something I don't miss.
Don't miss? No, man. Once you're out of it, you don't want to go back to it. For sure. It's funny because even from moving there, I don't really go past Packard's Corner too often. And Packard's Corner, you could throw a rock to. Yeah. But I really don't go down that way unless I really have to. Always stay here or just home. That's it, man. Yeah. Or north. Out of the city. Get out of the city.
Yeah. So what brought you to the city anyways? Because you're not originally from Boston or Massachusetts, are you?
No. Originally from California, Southern California. Moved to upstate central New York when I was a teenager or whatever. And then moved to Boston 2004 or 5. I think 5 probably. But I was tattooing in New York and then just needed to change it up. Yeah. For me, Boston, I guess, was a kind of a familiar place because I came here and skated a few times. And then I knew how to get here. I knew how to work around the city, I guess. So it was just the first place I tried to look for work outside of New York. And it worked out.
And you started at Good Faith, or you were at Regen as well, right?
Yeah. I was at Regen 1.0 in 2005 until 2007. I was living and working in upstate New York, and it was, I guess, 5 years. And I took my first trip outside of New York, outside of the U.S., and realized at that point that I needed to move to a different place and learn more. I learned all I could and did all I could in New York. And after doing that first trip outside of that shop, I realized that, oh man, I need to work with different people. I need to keep this progression and learn from other people. So it just basically was kind of like a decision I made instantly. I even called the guy I was working for while I was away, called him up and just let him know that I was thinking about it. I was like, hey man, I think when I get back to the States, I might want to move. I don't know where or when or what, but I just wanted you to know. It was like calling your mom or your dad, like, hey, it's one thing I'm going to do. And he's like, yeah, I think you're ready. You should do it. So as soon as I landed from that trip, I jumped on a bus that next day to Boston with my portfolio. And that weekend found and met Sue, the original owner of Regeneration. It wasn't even on my list, man. I went to just like anybody moving around, you would go to all the shops that you would ideally want to work at, know. But Sue at Regen, I was driving down the road and saw it. and just was like, oh, I'll stop in there tomorrow. I saw the sign that said tattoo. So I went in there, and it was just a weird connection that she had with a mutual friend.
Mm-hmm.
She was super nice and was like, oh, you should totally work here. You know, we know this guy. And I was just like, all right, yeah, you seem cool. And I did it, and it worked out. It was great. It was awesome. It was a fun 2 years being at that shop. And as you know, like that whole area is just,
it's wild.
So cool. It was super fun. Yeah, it was really fun. And that's where I met a lot of people that I still know, and customers and just friends are still from that shop.
Right.
And even Vic, you know, who Victor works with us here. And I worked with him there. He was not the first guy I worked with there. There was this dude, Texas Bob, who moved shortly after it opened. And then Vic came in, and Vic and I have been friends since, and he's here now. So it was fun, man. That was a cool shop.
Were you still there when Edwin, or was Edwin there yet?
No, that's funny. Edwin came in as Vic was moving here.
Okay. He filled his spot then.
Yeah. And that, I don't know if it seemed like it was a very smooth transition. I don't know how it worked, because like Vic was like, oh, I want to move. But then Edwin kind of came in, and I think maybe at the time Regen was like, oh, well, okay, well, at least you're filling the spot kind of. And maybe it helped with Vic to move out. But I only met Edwin at that time. I didn't know him or anything like that.
Right.
So I didn't get to work with Edwin.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah.
He's one of my favorites.
Yeah, dude was cool as hell, man. I wish I could have worked with him. Yeah. When I was there, it was still record shop, punk shows.
It was a weird, I never knew about Regen until I started working there as well. But I hear the stories of like, there was a music venue.
Yeah, every weekend. Shows or band practicing. So sometimes you'd be tattooing while there'd be a band practicing downstairs, which, you know, it was fun because you're like listening to good music. It was loud and stuff, but whatever. It was tattooing. And I think too, that was kind of one of the things where when I initially started working there, you know, you have your pros and cons. And I think at the time the con was like, well, it's a tattoo shop basically in the back of a record shop. Also, I was like, well, people in bands like getting tattoos. And it was a new shop. Like, it wasn't even actually open yet for tattooing when I got hired. They were getting ready to tattoo. Also, too, I was like, maybe it's not a bad thing, because at least I'm not stepping on anyone's toes, or I don't want to feel bad if I do a tattoo and someone else could have done it, or feel like you're stealing someone's customer or walk in or whatever.
Right.
So I thought it was just maybe a good place to kind of build up a clientele here for being new into the city.
Sure.
At a new shop, and tattoo all these like punk kids and stuff like that. And it was fun, but also definitely weird, because sometimes you would have a full on show be happening and you're just in the back tattooing your customer. And so it was interesting. It was cool.
But yeah, now it's a total facelift. It's a legit
Regen 2.0.
Yeah, 2.0.
That was like right when my transition from there to here, when the shop was actually going from 1.0 to 2.0, is when I kind of not slipped out, but that's when I moved on and came over here. So I didn't get to even experience working in the tattoo shop. Yeah, because that's when they got rid of the record sales and the shows stopped happening, and it became a tattoo shop. And kind of wish I could have experienced that a little bit, you know, since I was there, I guess, since the opening of that shop. Yeah. And
then when I started working there, it was already an established tattoo shop. Yeah. It's a fun place.
Such a cool place, man. I remember when we were there too, like, because Mr. Butch, I don't know if you remember him.
I remember him. I think we still have posters of him over there.
Yeah. I got a bunch of pictures of him and stuff like that. Mr. Butch was the night watchman, he would call himself. He slept in the basement sometimes in the winters and stuff like that. And he was the night watchman. So sometimes, you know, you'd be there after hours drawing or whatever, and the night watchman would show up for a shift. He's like, I'm here for my shift, man. And he's like, if you need me, I'll be downstairs. And he'd just be downstairs, you know, finishing his drink or smoking a joint or whatever. And it was cool. Like, we would sit out when Vic and I were working there, and after the shop was done, we'd kick back, close the gate halfway, just to kind of keep people from just walking in, but allowing people to walk in. And we would just have a few gin and tonics and talk about the day, but just more or less look out and enjoy what was happening outside on Harvard Ave, and so many funny stories and like stuff that you see. It was pretty rad. It was a good time.
We had a podcast with Will and Edwin.
Yeah.
The last trip I had here, and it was funny because we're in that front lobby room and just a huge outbreak had happened right outside.
Yes.
And then we all had to like stop at what we're doing, take a break and look what up.
Check it out. Yeah. You can, that's
every other night.
Made it good, man. That's what made that place fun. Yeah, it was a good 2 years there. I met a lot of cool people. It was fun.
Yeah. And now you're the owner of this shop, Good Faith.
Yeah. Luckily, right place, right time, I guess. But this shop opened 2007.
I feel like it was open earlier than that.
Yeah, it feels like it. Yeah, but no, it was 2007 because that's right. Yeah, 2007, and it was a little later than expected. It's supposed to be open sooner, but Board of Health and all that stuff. But so yeah, that was Corey Kruger and then Jason Louie. Opened the shop together. I had met Jason on that first trip that I came here looking for a spot. Jason at that time was co-owner of Redemption still. So I went into that shop. He was super nice, talked to me, looked at my portfolio, things like that. He was just pretty genuine dude. But I also knew like I wasn't going to be getting work there. Like I knew it even walking into it, like I probably shouldn't stop in here, but I'm going to stop in here anyways and just say hi kind of a thing, which I'm glad I did because in the end I'm here. So I met him briefly and then I saw him, I believe at that tattoo convention that year. And I went up and said, hey, and said, how you doing and stuff like that. And just chatted with him for a few minutes. And then, yes, he had reached out to me about him and Corey opening up a shop in Boston. He's like, hey, if anyone's looking for a place, let me know. I'm like, all right, yeah, I don't know anybody, but if anybody comes to mind, I'll let you know. And then a few weeks later, he was like, yeah, so if you want a spot, it's open. And he's like, I know you're at Regen and, whatever, but if you ever do want to come over, there's a spot open. And at that time, that's when that transition from Regen 1.0 to 2.0 was happening. And I just felt like that was the right time. I was like, well, actually, yeah, that does sound like a good idea, So started working here in 2007 when they opened up this Good Faith 2, technically. Because Good Faith 1 was still in Clinton, Mass. That's where Corey's first shop was at.
It's funny you mentioned that because Theo, who works with me at Royal, he has his back done by Corey, and he got it at the
old one, right?
Yeah, I think it's a Malakala back piece.
No, I think I know which one you're talking about.
And
the one. Yeah, that one is sick.
And he got it done in the Clinton shop.
Yeah.
It's pretty intense.
Dude, that shop, I only went there a few times. I went there once to talk to Corey about getting hired, I guess. It was like kind of like an interview.
Right.
That's the first time I went to that shop and talk about like not intimidating, but just being like mesmerized, I guess, more or less, because you knew the stuff that he has done, seen it through the magazines and all that, and blown away by it. And then to actually walk in there and meet him, and then possibly talking about like working for him, I was just like super nervous, but both of them are super cool dudes. And it was just, he was more or less like, yeah, so you want to work? Okay, yeah, all right, you're hired kind of a thing. It was like super easy, way more or less stressful than I had thought it was going to be. But I was very stressed out, like walking into that shop and just ecstatic to work with both of those two dudes, especially at that time and me tattooing, it was only really 5 years into tattooing. And I came from upstate central New York where totally different type of tattooing, especially then, and I think that was what drove me to move from upstate New York, was just to learn more. Yeah. And then to be here in 2 years and then to be able to work with those two at their shop I was blown away.
Yeah, I feel like that kind of upstate New York style is more like a neo-traditional, like American neo-traditional type of look in a way. But your work is more Japanese, and Jason definitely did a lot of that.
Yeah, and that definitely influenced by those two as a lot. And I think was like a dream come true too, because while I was in New York and doing that stuff, it was fun. It was a very busy street shop, flash all day. And it was fun. The dude that I worked for and Tommy was super fun to work for. Mike Davidson showed me how to tattoo. I had a ton of fun there. And I learned a lot from him with even running a shop, the way he ran his shop. His, business ethic was really spot on, I felt like, for at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But a few years into tattooing, I got really influenced by Japanese style tattoos. And I was like, this is interesting. I want to learn more about this. I was actually in Japan when I called Mike and told him how I wanted to move because I was there. And that's when I realized, no, I do need to work somewhere else. So to be from New York and then live in Boston, and 2 years later to be able to work with Corey and Jason was like I said, a dream come true. And I was just like very excited for that chapter to work here and watch them work and then there are two different styles and two different ways of figuring things out. But man, you learn so much. Unfortunately, they didn't work together too long. You know what I mean? Like Corey and Jason were only partners for a couple of years or so.
Mm-hmm.
So, and for the first year, Corey was only here a couple of days a week because he still had the shop in Clinton.
Right.
Until he closed first Good Faith One, I guess we'll say.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was here full time. And then it was on, then you're surrounded by it every day.
Yeah.
And to watch him work, and that was awesome.
Yeah. I always love being able to work with different people, and that's why I like to travel. And that was one of the reasons why when I stopped working at Regen was to come here, because you guys had always been close friends of mine, but we had all never worked together.
Yeah.
I felt like it was my opportunity, even though it was so short.
Yeah. It was very short.
But
it was very, very short, but it was still fun.
Yeah.
And you visit a lot too, so that's good.
That's good. Yeah. I remember you telling me some pretty cool stories. I think you were in Korea for conventions, and there it wasn't illegal for tattoo conventions.
The Ink Bomb convention, by Tenom at Sunrat Tattoo. Yeah, it was cool enough to meet Tenom in one of my Japan trips because my friend Gami out in Kagoshima put on like a tattoo event, in the bar. The first one that we did was very small. It was just Gami and myself tattooing. That was it in a bar. That style where there's bands and DJs playing. It wasn't like a convention. It was more of just like a show kind of a thing. And I remember the first one we did a collab on a back.
Really?
So him and I were tattooing the same time. I outlined it 2 weeks before the event, and then him and I shaded the whole thing in at the tattoo event. So the second year he did it again, and that's when I met Tenom from Korea. He started doing the Ink Bomb, and then I got invited. I think it might have been the second or third one that he put on that I got invited to. But yeah, like you were saying, it's totally illegal there. You have to be a doctor technically to tattoo out there, from what I understand. I know they're fighting it and stuff, but yeah, that first convention was one of the best conventions, honestly, that I worked at. It was so fun. It was super busy. He put it on very well. And I was really surprised that it went on because it was illegal. Even flying there, I remember being on the plane, you know how they have the magazines in the back, the seats. And they even had an article about the convention. And in my head, I'm like, wait, this is illegal, but this dude's got like an article in this, airline mag. And I was like, this dude's doing it.
He's hiding in plain sight.
Yeah, doing it, And so in my head, I'm like looking at my friends from Japan, Gami and Horisho from Fukuoka. We went together. I was like, are we going to be okay? And they're just like shrugged their shoulders. Like, maybe not. But it was. The first one that we went to was amazing. No problems. The second one that we were probably talking about is the one that got busted. It wasn't too long before they stopped it. Within the first few hours, everybody was mid-tattoo. We kind of looked at each other, and I'm sure a lot of people said the same thing, but I looked at Tenom and I was like, I'm just going to go back to the hotel and finish. And he looked at me, and as you can see his eyes, he's like, yeah, all right, let's do it. And so we all just packed up, wrapped up the customers mid-tattoo. We walked back to the hotel. Luckily, it was a short walk, but everybody walked back to the hotel, and we pretty much had 2 floors to ourselves because everybody was staying in the same hotel.
Right.
Left all the doors open, and just people were just walking down the halls, in and out of your room. And that's where the rest of the tattooing went on.
Wow.
Luckily, I guess for me being a foreigner, the police weren't as interested in me as they were as the Korean tattooers.
Right.
And that's who they were kind of keeping an eye on. And they were going around grabbing business cards off the table to be like, oh, yeah, now we know where you work.
And then they can contact them.
Yeah. Because the first time the cops came in, I didn't even realize they were police. I was drawing. One of the staff dudes came over with this guy who I thought was a reporter because he had it was almost an iPad sized phone, like the bigger Samsungs that when they first are coming out. And he was taking photos. So in my head, I'm like, oh, this dude's taking a picture of me, whatever. So I looked up and smiled. And the other dude's like, no face, no face. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll put my head down. No, don't look at him. I thought maybe I wasn't supposed to look at the guy or something. But then when he left, he's like, no, he was police. I was like, oh, okay. So they got away with that first hour being like, no, this isn't a tattoo convention. This is an art convention. These are all artists. They're just drawing. We're just showcasing the art side of it. But that's because no one was tattooing yet. And then in my head, I remember saying like, why? I wonder if these guys are just going to stop back. And sure enough, 20 minutes later, they busted through the doors again. And now everybody was tattooing. So that's when they were like, you got to shut it down. If we come back, we're going to arrest people. They didn't arrest anybody that trip, but they basically shut it down. Right. I think he's been fighting it ever since.
Have they had any other conventions there since?
He tried. So I believe that was 2013 that one was. And then I think he tried it again in 2014. And when he contacted me, but I think there were some other scheduling things too. But I said, I'm sorry. I can't make this one, but I definitely want to come next year. And I'm glad I didn't, because that one didn't even get started. The cops shut it down before it even happened. I think this time too, he was trying to do it on like a cruise ship or like a boat. And I don't know. I'm assuming that his plan was just to shove off, like pre everything starting and be in the water. And that way no cops could
crash the party. Yeah.
But they must have known, and they shut it down before he even left the dock.
They've probably read the magazine.
Something. I don't know, man. Magazine. Yeah, they were in the magazine or just online, or who knows. Maybe somebody ratted him out. Yeah. Somebody jealous or whatever. But that dude's Tenom he's pretty funny.
He sounds pretty ballsy.
Yeah.
Just be like, oh, we're going to have this convention.
There was a lot of people. I think the first one that I went to, it was only myself and one other American guy, Scotty Kelly from in New York. He was there, and the rest was all like Japanese and Korean tattooers. The other one, the one that did get busted, there were a few other more like different foreigners. Yeah, and it was bigger. And I only went to the two, but from the first one I went to and the second one, oh man, what a difference in like he stepped it up even more. Right, with everything. It was really cool. Such a cool place to tattoo. Both places, man. Japan and Korea for sure.
How often do you get to go to Japan?
I haven't been in a few years, but I was lucky enough when I did start going. I did 10 years in a row. Wow. And I went every year for 10 years for the full 3 months on my passport. Wow. And I would just go down there. Actually, when I started working here, I didn't do the 3 months because I didn't think Corey and Jay would be too happy about it, me being gone for 3 months. But I did a full month. Every year after that, I would just do at least a month. Incredible. Basically, super lucky in how it all happened.
Were you working out there or just kind of living and existing, or
both? So the first trip I did was a good friend of mine from upstate New York, my friend Jason, and he invited me on a visit, basically. 3 weeks. He was like, "Oh, you should come with me." I was like, "Hell yeah, let's go." So I went with him for 3 weeks, and I went into all the shops I could find, whatever was visible at that time, just to go see, And in my head, I was like, man, I would love to come back here and tattoo. The first trip was just a visit. From that time into the second time I went, I met my friend Yohei, who was from Japan. He was actually living in Boston, and then visited my friend Jason in New York and stayed with me for a few nights. And I lived in a skate house so he can party. And that's how I got to meet Yohei. And I tattooed him for a drum set because he had a drum set and he clearly wasn't going to bring it back to Japan. So he's like, "Hey man, I'd like to get tattooed by you. Would you happen to want a drum set?" And I was like, "Sure." I had a big house. I was like, "Yeah, we need a band room. I'll take that drum set." So I tattooed him, and he offered "Hey, you should, if you ever come out and visit, let me know." And I was like, "Yeah, I've been there once. I'd like to go back. Definitely." And then he hit me up months later. And his friend Gami, who I got to meet that year, owned the shop in Kagoshima, Gay's Mission. saw the tattoo I did and was like, yeah, have him send more photos. So I sent him more photos. And then Yohei was kind of like my middleman friend that was doing all the communicating and set it up for me.
Wow.
And basically said, okay, well, you can work at the shop for 2 weeks, but if you want to come longer, you can tattoo out of my house, basically like it was apartment. Mm-hmm. So my plan was, all right, well, I'm coming for 3 months. I'll tattoo 2 weeks, and then the rest I'll just tattoo out of your apartment. So I brought so much stuff with me that first trip. I think I brought a whole shop's worth of stuff because I had no idea. Mm-hmm. It was my first time tattooing outside of the States, right. Or even in a different, like whatever. And I was so like, I need to bring everything. Like I'm going to not be able to find anything if this thing breaks or this thing breaks, or totally didn't need any of it. Could have just survived off the minimal stuff. But when I got to meet Gami, he and I got along so well that I think in the 2 weeks that I was there, he knew that I was going to be there for 3 months, basically like hanging out or living or whatever you want to say. And he said to me, he's like, oh, well, as long as you're here, man, you can work at the shop. And I was just like, that's amazing,
mm-hmm.
And he didn't say it to me that easily because our language barrier was very little harder then.
Mm-hmm.
But it was very cool of him to offer me that. I took that as the opportunity to be at the shop every day that he was at the shop, even if I wasn't tattooing, which I wasn't really obviously busy there, not at first.
Yeah.
But as I kept going back, then I started getting busier and busier and busier. So that first trip, a lot of it was just tattooing friends of friends, other people like that. Or if somebody came in and wanted, like an American style tattoo,
mm-hmm.
like clearly I wasn't there doing Japanese stuff, like, no, that's not what they're going to get from me. I was doing a lot of like West Coast style, like Cholo style, Chicano style, black and gray, traditional stuff, which is obviously fun. But
mm-hmm.
while I was there, I was learning
Sure.
the Japanese style stuff and lucky enough to get tattooed by him. And this is even before I went there, I said, oh, I should go to Japan and get a Japanese tattoo, like where else would you go? And then when I met Gami, I was lucky enough to get my sleeve done from him. And then getting tattooed by him and watching him work that way, I was blown away. It was an amazing 3 months of just learning as much as I could from him, watching him work and draw and piece together these huge back pieces and sleeves. And
was he doing like a lot of freehand or
mixed? He would generally have things drawn out, but he would do a lot of freehand stuff, piecing it together.
Right.
Because even watching him work was one of the first few people I saw do the bigger stuff. Because in New York, no one was really doing like full laid out sleeves or back pieces. So watching him do that was, opening my mind up to like, oh, okay, that's how you do it. And this is a different way to do it and approach to it. But he had everything drawn out. All the drawings were amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a huge book collection that on the days that were, if he wasn't tattooing, I would just be in his library. And it's funny, I found the notepad the other day of all the ISBN numbers.
Oh, good.
I wasn't ordering them online. So I was like, this book is sick. Okay, name, ISBN, because I need to find this.
Yeah.
And then I would go to all the bookstores in town and just hunt these books down. And some of them where he would be like, dude, good luck, laughing like, you got to find that one, sucker. And a lot of them I didn't, but a lot of them I did. And just to have that at my fingertips was also amazing to be able to like flip through all these books. And I looked at all of them, man. The ones I could read, I'd read if they were broken down in English.
Right.
But if not, I sat there and looked at all of them. I don't know. I should check and see which ones actually like checked off that list. I don't know from there, but learned a lot from that dude.
Yeah, that's what I kind of miss that now, like book shopping and like book hunting.
Yeah, dude.
I don't know. I don't really do it that much anymore. And maybe because there's not too many new publishing going on.
Yeah.
But I still haven't been to Japan. I need to go. I would love to raid some bookstores and bring some stuff back. But just to have the experience, because I like doing Japanese tattooing. And I know it's not traditional Japanese, but it would be nice to go there, pick up some more stuff. Yeah. Just look at things differently, like you said.
So different. So when I was there and working with Gami, he was the man in that area. That was in the Kagoshima, so the Kyushu area, very southern part of Japan. Very cool, laid back, tropical in a sense. There's palm trees and stuff.
Oh, wow.
It was a small town. I guess it was kind of like Boston to New York. That's how I felt like Kagoshima was the smaller city. The next biggest one would be Fukuoka, where Horisho shop, Amitabha Tattoo's at. And I got to meet him through Gami. And totally two different styles of shops, two different styles of Japanese style tattooing, even lifestyles, totally different from the two cities. Being able to meet Horisho and split up my time. So I think the first year working with Gami at Gaze Mission, I didn't go to Fukuoka because I didn't know anybody there. So then the next year I went to Kagoshima. I was telling Gami, I'm like, hey, I'm going to go visit my friend Jason in Fukuoka. And he gave me the name of Horisho and his shop, Amitabha. So he's like, oh, go say hi to him. Just in it, I thought it was just to go say hi to him. It wasn't like anything from that. I was like, oh yeah, cool. I'll go say hi, check out his shop. But then I go meet him, and Horisho is just another rad dude that was just like, hey, what's up? And like, he spoke a little bit more English than Gami, but that turned into me tattooing there. And I wasn't even really planning on it, but then I ended up tattooing at his shop as well. So I was lucky enough to split the trips up. So anytime I would go back, I would do a few weeks in Gaze Mission, and then to split it up, I'd take the train and I'd go up to Fukuoka and do a week or two in Fukuoka at Amitabha, and then go back to Kagoshima. Some trips I would do that a few times.
And they were cool, like, about that. They didn't care. Like,
they were both friends. Those two shops were the two shops that I would travel with to Korea. Like, we would all do it as a group. So then when we started doing the Korea convention, I would go to Japan, tattoo with those guys. And then if I was in Kagoshima, then me and Gami in the shop would take the bus or the train to Fukuoka, meet Horisho and those dudes, have drinks and food. And then we would all fly to Korea together and be together. And I was somehow mixed in with these two shops and hanging out, just
That's
like,
so cool.
Yeah, the little dude in the back, the little Jin guy in the back, just waving like, yeah, it's me. How you doing? Some of the great times tattooing then, those 10 years, man, were pretty fun. I learned a lot.
And it's something, it sounds like you probably couldn't have planned. You just show up, and then one thing leads to another.
Very lucky. Even being able to work with Gami as long as I did, and to be able to go back and stuff and work with him. And he still does it's called South Ink. South, because it's like South Japan, so they call it South Ink Tattoo Convention. And it's gotten bigger. Like I keep track of it, and now that he's on Instagram, you see photos of it.
Is it all like different styles of tattooing?
Yeah, like between the two, I feel like Gami is definitely more of a traditional, like old school tattoo style. Like all his imagery is very big and bold, not a lot of layers to it,
right?
If that's the right word. Where Horisho is a little more dynamic with it,
right.
a little bit more layering, a little bit more dynamic with the figures of whatever he's doing. Like the image is a little bit more dynamic. It was crazy to me. So when I was going there in one of the years, his Thermofax stopped working, or he got rid of it or something. I forgot what happened, but he didn't have a stencil machine. So he was cutting all these stencils by hand, and like huge back pieces by hand. And in my head, I was like, you're crazy, man. Like, what if it rips? Or what if you got to move it? Or
gets too wet.
Yeah, like, so he just like looked at me like, yeah, I guess I just got to make another one by hand. And
so much work.
Even me just being there for the short amount of time I was there and cutting stencils by hand after a while, I was like, I can't imagine you doing that for like a huge back piece, as opposed to just drawing it on. I guess maybe he does a little bit more of that nowadays. But
I worked at a couple shops that didn't have stencil machines. It's not so bad if you're, everything's scheduled, but if on a busy walk-in day, it's like half of your time is just doing hand stencils. Especially after the X amount of time of making the line drawing, and then you're like, oh wait, I got to make another line. Basically, you're like redrawing the same image so many times. And then imagine if they want it smaller.
Or can you move it a little bit to the left? And you're like, no, not today.
But I got more used to kind of drawing a lot more things on that I could, just because I was like, if I'm going to have to draw it 10 times, I might as well just draw it on the person.
Yeah. I learned a little bit of that from Horisho. Horisho was more like that, where he would stencil the image and then draw a lot of the background on. So it was cool to be able to see both work that way.
Yeah.
And the way they approached it and stuff like that.
Yeah. And he's worked here before.
Yeah. Horisho's been here a few times. He hasn't been here in a few years, but I know he still goes out to California and stuff like that, so people could probably catch him on some conventions out in California and things like that. It is a long flight, and I don't,
especially to here.
Yeah, and I think that was for him, and I get it now that I'm a little older. I think about it, I'm like, oh man, do I really want to send that plane for 14? The one flight, the bigger flight for the 14 plus hours? Maybe I don't know. I'll try it out again. But
you wait a while, and then the nostalgia will come back.
Yeah, I think I might try to do a trip there soon though. I haven't been in. Yeah, so 2013, right before I bought the shop, because I bought the shop in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my last trip to Japan and Korea tattooing. And then I think a lot of it was, focusing on being here, is owning the shop.
Sure.
And I didn't do a lot of tattoo travel after purchasing the shop, besides a few conventions in the States or things like that, or going to friend shops or whatever, but nothing like that serious where I was like, 3 months, I'm there. See ya. So I was lucky.
I'm sure the guys keep it down here. They keep it together.
You could trust everybody. They're cool. They hold it down.
I trust everybody.
They hold
here.
it down. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And just doing more like, I guess, not personal trips, but like surf trips and things like that. So I was like, I think I could go tattoo over here for 3 weeks, so I can go surf this beach for 3 weeks. And
you've been going to Costa Rica often.
Yeah, just something warm.
Yeah, warm
water
here.
Warm waters, man. That's what's going. And I'm lucky enough to have a good group of homies down there that take care of me and show me a good time and have fun. So, yeah.
And you've been skateboarding and snowboarding and surfing forever, huh?
Yeah, grew up as a skate rat.
Yeah.
And then learned to surf and then snowboard when I moved to the East Coast. So I think skating, like a lot of people, tattooers that skated, I feel like that was their entryway into like being opened up to tattoos. Like some people like music, like obviously band members have tattoos. For me, it was like looking through skate magazines and seeing skaters have tattoos, and even just the graphics, obviously the graphics back then, all hand drawn, very tattooable type stuff. And it was like, as growing up as a skater, like that's what you enjoy looking at, were all the graphics, and then redrawing those graphics and school books and things like that. And then at the time in the skate shop in New York, this dude Mark that used to work at the shop was actually getting tattooed in the shop when I went in there to go buy a deck one day. And that was the first time seeing it done. I think I was only like 14 or something like that. Wow. And he was getting the one Pusshead Thrasher logo tattooed on him behind the counter. Still handed me, cashed me out and did my skateboard transaction while I was getting tattooed. Oh my goodness. But I stuck around and just watched them because I was like, this is crazy. This is so cool. And kind of opened my eyes a little bit more into me like, oh, okay.
That could be that. That was your
one
of the moments.
This is cool. This is cool. And I was like, I want one of those. Yeah. So that was like an influence into tattooing for sure. The whole art side of it. Nice. For sure. Yeah.
Is there anything else we can cover?
No, I'm just lucky, man. I just feel really lucky with how everything worked out, where I'm at today, how I got here, the people that I've worked with, yourself included, everyone else that I've got to meet through traveling or tattooing or whatever. It's been fun as hell. Yeah. And I know we all feel the same way. We're very lucky and grateful to be able to do this and definitely. To keep us going. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's good to kind of sit down and talk about it because, if you're busy all throughout the day, you don't get a chance to kind of like soak it all in. But listen to you talk, and I go through my head of like my experiences, and I'm like, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, man. Yeah, everything is. Yeah, I wouldn't have done it any different, for sure. Yeah, we all ended up here for a reason, and I wouldn't change anything for anything.
Me neither.
No, except maybe warmer weather.
So how can we find you? You have the shop Instagram.
Yeah, it's hard to find me. You can find the shop. It's just Good Faith Tattoo on the Instagram. Same with the website. As far as my personal Instagram, I think I just posted something last month, but it was like a full year from the last post I looked at. I was just kind of laughing. I was like, yeah, that's pretty important to me. But the shop, the dudes at the shop, Johannes, Vic, Nick, Lena, Jamie, they're on it. And I let them just kind of run with it and do what they want with the whole Instagram thing.
I admire you there. Just let it go.
Yeah, man. You guys can do that. But like I said, that's a whole nother story. We can get into that some other time. There's old school, I guess, mentality with that. Phone book. I mean, I wish I could get rid of the phone. I wish I could just shut the phone off. Not have any.
You just have to show up.
Yeah, just come in. That's because anyone calls anyways. Like, just calling about walking in. It's like, why don't you just walk in? Whatever. But yeah, another story.
We'll leave that to part 2, and then we'll thrash those
Hell
people later.
I'm ready. Next trip, next visit. Or maybe I'll come visit you guys soon.
Yeah, you have to. We have huge amount of skate parks in Denmark.
That's the reason to give me images. Yeah, I know when you're first
look
got
what you're
there,
missing.
like, this is down the street, and I was like, yeah, I'm going there. I'm sorry, guys. My tattoo stuff got held up. Just got my skateboard. But yeah, I look forward to it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining me on this, and it's been a pleasure to work with you, and
it was fun.
Be your friend.
Oh man, friends to the end. Thank you.
Thanks, bud.
My man.
Isn't it crazy how an hour goes by?
Dude, that was quick.
Yeah.
That was nice.
And you did all the work.
Damn.
Hang out and listen.